cover here, I want to talk about the French elections, and the fallout from this is absolutely fascinating. And I'm sure everyone at home, you're across the story. Marine Le Pen's National Rally Party looked set for a big win, but then the runoff results overnight show the country's actually going to the left, with the Macron technocrats and a much further left party getting together, doing deals to make sure they boxed the Le Pen party out. Now, there were some pretty wild scenes on the streets of France afterwards. Let's have a look. You gotta love the French left. They riot when they win. They riot when they lose. They riot on a day ending in Y. Matt Canavan, first of all, give me your take on this. It's basically only in the urban cores that the left did well, but everybody else in France seems to be sick of Macron's managerialism and seemingly unlimited, uncontrolled immigration. Did the left unfairly game the system here?
Well, I like your opening there, that it seemed to me that those protesters were protesting and being angry because they didn't have the reason to protest that they thought they were going to have by winning. So they're very upset and decided to protest about it. But hopefully not too much damage is done in Paris, especially ahead of the Olympics. Well, look, I think French society, if you look at these election results, looks as polarised as almost anywhere else in the Western world. I mean, if you classify Macron's party as left, and there's a question about whether his voters are at least a left, he tries to present himself as a centrist party, but if you put them on the left, you add up the parties to the right, you get about 50-50 between in the French population, and that's pretty much where it is around the world. As you say, or suggested there, it's just that the left seemed better organised and were able to coordinate who was going to run in which department, I think they call them in France, and that meant through a first part, okay, thank you, James, for helping me out there. They with the first past the post system, with the Republicans still running against a right-wing party, still running against the National Front, that destroyed their opportunity. And you've seen that in different election results as well. You see it with the Electoral College in the US. So it's not uncommon. Organisation is very important. Logistics is important in politics, just as much as getting the number of votes is.
Matt's right. Organisation is absolutely critical. I actually think the left was aided by the media speculation that this was going to be a Marine Le Pen victory.
Yes.
That forced them to get their act together in a way that I don't think they were necessarily capable of beforehand.
Well, and I mean, it's going to be really interesting to watch these two very different, when it comes down to the fundamentals, parties try and work together in some sort of government.
Well, look at the left-wing coalition. You know, it's the People's Front of Judea and the Judeans' People's Front. You know, and they all hate each other. You've got the communists, the Greens, the socialists, En Marche. You know, and they all hate each other, like, viciously.
God, it feels like the Australian Parliament. But, you know, there's another issue, too, here, Sam, which I want to dive into, which is, you know, if you look at the Marine Le Pen program, in many ways, you know, they say, oh, it's far right, oh, it's fascist, but in many ways, the economics are very left-wing. It's big government spending, it's big pensions, which, of course, we know are the big thing that the French people really care about is, you know, that big pension. But the only thing that really distinguishes them most of all is their stance on migration. And the big question I have is, why is it that despite open borders being wildly unpopular with most normal people in most countries, immigration, people always say, tap the brakes, we're not anti-immigrant, but we do not like this uncontrolled flood. The elite and the centrists seem to have this as an article of faith that if some immigration is good, more is better. And anybody who thinks otherwise is, you know, to be frank, you know, they call them far right, they call them alt-right, they call them a Nazi. How come?
Look, I'm not sure that's entirely correct. Marine Le Pen, over a very long political career, 20 years or 30 years or something, has said some genuinely disturbing comments and has some genuinely disturbing views. And also, you know, we talk about fascists and communists in the Australian landscape like it's sort of student politics, right?
Sure.
When you're talking about it in Europe and France, you know, those ideas of fascism and communism have real historical context. And I don't think for 20 years until, 6 or 7 years ago, Marine Le Pen did enough to distance herself from that target. And she was happy to say, well, not happy to say that she was a fascist, but she certainly didn't run away from that tag as far and as fast as she should have.
It just seems to strike me that all of these parties, in the center and, center left, center right, when you've got this issue of migration, which seems to drive people to the far right, instead of saying, well, maybe we should do something about that and wind it back, they just demonize people. I think that's pretty strange. We see the same thing happening in Australia.
No, that's fair. And I think a lot of people that have those similar views, when they start hearing people espousing those views getting called racist, all of a sudden they think, well, hold on, I'm not racist. Why are you saying that they're racist if that's me? No. I think there is clearly some sense to a policy proposal, and Australia has some very tough bipartisan.
Sure.